September 6, 1962 was a special day in the Ray household. It was my sister's birthday. But that wasn't a big deal. I was packing my bags, getting ready to go to college. See, I'm the youngest of 5 children. My brothers and sisters had been accepted to Alabama State College, and they became school teachers. But I had been accepted to Tuskegee Institute School of Engineering. That afternoon, while I was packing my bags, I found some firecrackers in my footlocker. So when I finished packing my bags, I decided I'd walk a couple of miles away to my grandmother's house and say bye to my cousins before I left for Tuskegee. My little cousin Moses decided to go with me. So as we ran down the road, shot the firecrackers that I found in my footlocker. Short time later, we noticed a pickup truck coming up the road. We recognized the truck. It belonged to that white guy, Bill Keller, that lived near my grandmother. So he drove up, got out of his truck, and began to question us about the gunshot sounds. When he asked me questions, I answered by saying yes and no. And he asked me if I knew I was supposed to say yes, sir, and no, sir, to white folks. Well, I said no. And without a warning, he began to beat me up, knocked me down, began to kick and stomp me. When he finished beating me, he straddled me with his knees, pinning my shoulders to the ground. Reached in his pocket and he pulled out a knife to cut my throat. And as he brought his hand down with the knife in it, I was looking him straight in his eyes. And just before he plunged the knife into my throat, he stopped. It's like God just froze him in midair. Had this look on his face like he was embarrassed. He got up, got in his truck and drove away. Moses and I ran back home. Went into the house. I got the shotgun and I told Daddy what had happened. Daddy said, "Oh, forget it." I said, "Come on, let's go down to Dick's house and watch the evening news."
Good evening, everybody. Coast to coast, Douglas Edwards reporting. America's second man in space is reported in fine shape tonight. Gus Grissom is relaxing now at Grand Bahama Island. His condition excellent despite that unscheduled dunking at the end of his journey this morning. The reason for the dunking is not...
Daddy go down to Dick's house, take our television, sit in the doorway, start watching Douglas Edwards in the CBS Evening News. About 6:10 p.m. I heard the sound of a truck coming up the road. It was Bill Kellogg. Bill drove up in the yard, got out of his truck, walked over to the porch and told Daddy I was going to have to leave because I didn't know how to talk to white folks. Daddy told him I was going away to college. Bill reached in his pocket, pulled out a gun, struck Daddy across the forehead. I hit Bill across the head with a Clorox ball. The three of us tumbled off the porch. As we held on to Bill, he raised his hand with the gun in it, cocked it, reached over, shot Dad in the chest 8 times. It happened that quick. But in my mind, it happened in slow motion. I saw everything, every little detail. As we held on to Bill, he raised his hand with the gun in it. He took his empty hand and he reached over and he cocked the .45 automatic. Clack, clack! And from this position, he began to fire. And each time he pulled the trigger, a bright flame came out of the gun barrel. And it made those popping sounds. Pop! 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 Each time a bullet hit Daddy's body would flinch. Dust particles from his clothes began to float up and mix with the smoke from the gun barrel. Daddy begins to fall forward in slow motion. Bill continued to fire. Pop! 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 Daddy fall to the ground. Take his last breath.